Got a Battle Axes of the Most High coming to you on a Monday night class. Get edified in the Lord's name. Name class today is called Last Night of the Leaven. You know, we having Feast of Leaven bread coming in, so we just kind of want to go through a couple precepts so brothers and sisters get in the spirit. And trying to get brothers, in like you say, get brothers in the spirit for the feast day, and kind of touch on a few precepts. So we, I ain't gonna be on it long, just because I know it's brothers and sisters got plenty of stuff they need to be trying to work on, trying to do whatever. So we can jump up in here right quick. First precept we going to is Exodus chapter 12. I'm gonna touch on a few little things. And we know Exodus chapter 12 touches on the feast of unleavened bread, right? Shalom, shalom, ma. First precept, the book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse, shalom, shalom, sis, in verse 34. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their knotting trough being bound up in the cloth upon the shoulder. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed the Egyptian jewels and silver and jewels of gold and raiments. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of Egyptians, so that they going to the piece of unleavened bread. When you get in order with the Most High during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, during the Passover, the Lord gives us favor. So we want to kind of home in on that, how the Lord gives us favor during the Passover. This is the time that we need to try to keep things simple, keep things in the right perspective, so we can try to get favor from the Lord during the Passover. Because we know how, we don't want to be that person that steps outside and the death angel come to and see us, right? But jump down to verse 39. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough that which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they thrust out the Egyptian, but they thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. So that's the reason why we go through the, like you say, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and this is the reason why we keep ourselves in the right frame of manner, right? Because we know the unleavened bread is the Passover, or Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover, one and the same. We know that it's always been even. Let's take it further back than that, right? Gonna touch on that right quick. Genesis chapter 19. Let me see. Just think about when the Lord, the Feast of Unleavened Bread wasn't the first time that the Lord sent the death angels into the land to destroy the people. That wasn't the first time he ever did it. But guess what? And it also wasn't the first time that the unleavened bread was used. Guess what? Just like the unleavened bread was used during the time of the Feast of Passover, the unleavened bread was used during the time of when the Lord came to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah too. Watch this. We're going to read that too. The book of Genesis chapter 19 and verse 1. And there came two angels to Sodom at eve, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground, right? And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your way. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the streets all night. So it was telling Lot that they finna get ready and abide in the streets. Basically, that they finna stay outside. They finna come in to destroy something. But Lot didn't know what was the plan of these two men. But when he seen the two men, he thinking it was these two men. But what he was doing is he was entertaining the angel unaware, right? So watch this though. Verse 3. and he pressed upon them greatly. So he started asking them, he telling them, come on, y'all. Hey, come on into the house, man. He pressing on to them. He trying to figure out what's going on while they're here. But he knows something's going on, right? So verse 3, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and he did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. You see how that goes? This is going into the first occasion when we see, like you say, this right before, like just like the Lord sent the death angels into Egypt, killing the firstborn, the Lord sent the death angels into Sodom, killing everybody that wasn't everybody except Lot and his family, right? And guess what? And then the time of Feast of Unleavened Bread, guess what happened? The Lord, they had unleavened bread during the time of the Lord slaughtered, the killed in Sodom. They had unleavened bread. So we do know that we see that the death angels, guess what? When they, hey, this unleavened bread was a symbolic thing going in towards the Feast of Unleavened Bread that we actually going into tomorrow, right? Let's go back. We're going to jump up to Exodus chapter 12. We're going to jump up to verse 19. Like you said, I'm not going to be here for a long time, but I am going to be here. Like you say, I'll be here for a good time, not for a long time. All right. Let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 12. We're going to start at verse 18. And in the first month, on the 14th day of month at eve, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at eve. So we know that our Lord said we supposed to be eating unleavened bread for these 7 days, right? And in this, guess what? We know tomorrow is our 14th day of the month, right? Because we done already had our new moon. So 2 weeks later, now we're going into tomorrow, which is going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? And so it would be our 14th day at eve tomorrow, right? So verse number 19, the book of Exodus chapter 12, verse 19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. So this is the time that we get the leaven. Like brothers and sisters need to go and make sure that they taking time out their day, taking time to try to get things right, to get the leaven out of their house, right? Get the leaven out of their physical house, but get the leaven out of their physical house. Right, get the leaven out of your spiritual house. Get the leaven out of your house that you sleep in. The Lord giving us opportunity, like you say. He gave us the first of the year to renew and to cleanse. Now He's giving 14 days later. He giving us the Passover and giving us 7 days with that to try to get the malice and to cleanse the leaven from our hearts. Right. Verse 19 again, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. For whosoever eat that which is leaven, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat no leaven in all inhabitations, and ye shall eat unleavened bread. So we shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days, right? We also should be I say getting rid of the leaven that's in our houses, right? Let's jump over. We're gonna go talk about the Levitical priests. Even when, like the Levitical priests, watch this. I'm gonna show you a little something about the Levites when they was keeping the feast, right? Let me see. This is going into the sacrifice, but how the Levites had to deal with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? Watch this. The book of Exodus chapter 34 and verse I'm gonna go in verse 25. I might jump up. I don't know. We'll see though. The book of Exodus chapter 34 and verse 25. And thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven. Why did you think the Lord told the Levites they shouldn't offer the blood of their sacrifice with leaven? This is going into not the physical leaven. This is going to a spiritual leaven. So when they was offering sacrifice, it could be no malice. Their heart had to be pure. They had to be ready to do what the Lord they requiring them to do. They wasn't sitting back waiting for somebody to I'm gonna see what brother do there, what sister do that. No, they was getting in it. It wasn't no malice on their heart. It was no what you call slothfulness. It wasn't nothing like that. It was getting in tune. Guess what? They was joyful to do the work. Just like this is a time of the year that we should be more joyful than doing the work than any other time of the year. Right? I'm gonna jump up to verse 23. 4 and verse 23. Thrice in the year shall all your men, children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. And for I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land. Thou shalt go up to appear before the Lord thy God thrice in the year. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the Passover be left until the morning. So the Lord said we don't supposed to be giving. Guess what? And we know that we come and giving our living sacrifice right now, but the Lord telling us, like He's telling the Levites, they can't give the sacrifice with leaven, right? Just going into living with it's physical living, but living in their hearts too, right? I'm gonna touch on that too. Watch this. Let's go to Hosea. Like I said, we ain't gonna try to go too deep, but we're gonna kind of touch on a few things right quick. Just trying to get brothers and sisters in the spirit. Shalom, shalom. Let's see. Get that new sword. Hosea chapter 7. Watch this. Because we gotta think. Now, this is going towards the northern tribe. But we got to think on how the Lord was talking to them. Basically, it's going and pertaining on how we act too. So, we can't be oblivious to this thing, right? Watch this, the book of Hosea, chapter 7. Watch this in verse. I'm gonna start with verse 1. Watch this. This is going into the northern tribe, but watch how the Lord say. So it says, when I would have healed Israel, then the iniquity of Ephraim was discovered, and the wickedness of Samaria, for they committed falsehood, and the thief cometh in, and the truth of robbers spoiled without. Right? So this means that just like it goes into when they cleanse, like I say, when the Lord's cleansed, when a person repent, or guess what, and they get their unclean spirit out of them, the unclean spirit leaves. Guess what? But it brings back 7 more. This goes into the same thing, right? It goes into how the Lord said, I would have healed them, and like you say, and would have gave them living water, but then they committed more evil. So now these spirits come back up on them. And so just like these nations, they came back up on us, right? Because when we was time for us to time for the northern tribe to repent fully and to come back to the Lord and show them a pattern of good works, they won't want to do it. But watch how the Lord said they did, right? They consider not in their hearts that I remember all the wickedness. Now their own doings have beset them about, and they are before my face. So the Lord said their own iniquities is upon them. Now they're facing my judgment. He said they are before my face. So that's mean like if a person doing wrong or right, guess what? If a person was doing wrong in any kind of matter, they will have to stand before the king. Just like the Lord is trying to give us an understanding how when the northern tribe was doing wrong, the Lord said they had to stand before my face, right? Watch this. Verse 3. They make the king glad with their wickedness, and their princes with their lies. Verse 4 is the point. They are all adulteresses, as an oven heated by the bakers, who cease from rising after their kneaded dough until it be leavened. So that means until the dough rise up. When it goes into leaven, that means something like instead of going into your until your blessings going up or your prayers going up, guess what? The wickedness, like a piece of bread or like some bread, is rising up. And this is how the Lord saying that how you got a baker put the dish up in the oven, and it's got leaven in it. Guess what? It's gonna make the bread rise. So the Lord said it done rose up, right? And the Lord see it. That's the same thing the Lord was talking about with the Pharisees and their heart. Man, let's go to Mark right quick. Same thing the Lord was talking about with the Pharisees and their heart, right? Mark chapter 8. Right? They had the same kind of leaven in their hearts too. And this is what the Lord had a problem with too, right? Neither had they in the ships with them more than one loaf. And he charged them, saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. So now, the disciples talking about regular bread, but the Lord's talking about the leaven of the Pharisees and of Herod. The leaven going into the same leaven that it was talking about in Hosea chapter 7 and verse 4. Right? This is the same leaven that is talking about the Pharisees, the leaven, the Pharisees in Herod. Right? These type of leaven, guess what? That's those unclean spirits that be on the people. That's the same thing that just about all the prophets taught about that, man. Right? Let's go to Galatians right quick. Let's go to Galatians. Galatians chapter 5. Watch this. Watch this. Galatians chapter 5, we'll start at verse 7. Ye did run well. Who did hinder you that you should not obey the truth? Right? This persuasion coming not of him that calleth you. Right? So the Lord telling us, like the scribes and Pharisees, they ran well, right? Even the Herod, guess what? He was supposed to be the one that was trying to rule well, but guess what? Because we trusted in Herod. Our nation trusted in Herod, so the Lord gave us up into our vile affections, right? We was in captivity upon the Romans and upon Romans and from the Greco-Roman captivity, right? So guess what, man? We was trusting in oppression then, right? And that's why the Lord was telling us to beware of the leaven that they had, right? So I'm gonna read verse 7 again. It said, ye did run well. Who did hinder you that ye should not obey the truth? Brothers is texting on the thing. I guess they must not be watching class or something. But anyway, I don't know, it's kind of crazy, but we're gonna go back to it. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 7. Ye did run well. Who did hinder you that ye should not obey the truth? So this is what we supposed to be looking at, right? The Lord said, if we running well in this truth, who gonna hinder us from this truth? This is the time of the year that we supposed to be getting the living out. So we don't want nobody to be hindering us from this truth. We want everybody to be locked in, everybody to be doing what they supposed to do, right? This persuasion coming not of him that calleth you, right? So the persuasion is, if somebody trying to hinder you from doing this work, from doing what you're supposed to do, that persuasion didn't come from the Most High, right? That persuasion came from, guess what? The other nations. It came from the enemy. It came, guess what? From wicked Israel. Guess what? You shouldn't let nobody persuade you, guess what? In no kind of manner, not to be keeping no laws, statutes, and commandments. You shouldn't let nobody persuade you not to keep no Passover, right? The Lord said, this persuasion coming not of him that calleth you. Verse 9, a little leaven leaveth the whole lump. So when you let these people in just a little bit to try to make you get away from your God, that little leaven can leaven your whole lump, can get into your spirit, and all of a sudden now you're going all the way off, right? And we don't want to have that, man. Just like Paul, I hope, brothers, I can have confidence in brothers and sisters that they not thinking in that matter, or they're not having those thoughts that they're gonna be wavering in this truth, right? Verse 10, he said, I have confidence in you through the Lord that ye will be none otherwise minded, but he that troubled you shall bear his judgment, and whosoever he be. So whosoever that person that's gonna hinder that person from keeping these laws, from keeping this Passover, from guess what, from letting this leaven, from keeping this leaven in your heart. Guess what? Husbands and wives, get this leaven out of your heart. Brothers and brothers, get the leaven out of your heart. Sisters and sisters, get the leaven out of your heart. Guess what, man? And we all already understand we're gonna constantly keep letting leaven go. But just because I let leaven go out of my heart don't mean I got to fool with everybody that I let the leaven go with. Everybody I love is not gonna be a part of my crew. It's just not. It's just how it's gonna be. We love everybody, but everybody just not gonna be. Christ had his own separate crew, right? This is how this thing go, man. Right? Watch this. Let's go to Luke chapter. Say I ain't gonna be here for no long time. Just trying to give a little pick me up for the brothers and sisters. This is going into the kingdom of heaven, how Christ taught, right? The book of Luke chapter 13 and verse 18. Then he said unto, what is the kingdom of God like? Whereunto shall I resemble it? So they're asking the question. He said, what's the kingdom of heaven look like? Should I resemble the kingdom of heaven? Is this something that I should be thinking about? Is this something I should be doing, right? It said, this is Christ, is like a grain of a mustard seed, which a man took and cast it in his garden, and it grew and waxed a great tree, and the fowls of the air lodged in the branches of it. So guess what? This goes into a deeper parable, right? It goes into shalom, bro. So this goes into a deeper parable. But guess what? This is how this truth is being sown. The Lord grabbed a handful of seed and he cast it about. And he let everybody go get a chance to do the work. Everybody can't chance to put their brick in. Every sister chance to put their brick in. Every brother chance to put their brick in. Every junior arc chance to put their brick in. Guess what? This is not the time to be sitting back. Guess what? You see, the more you see people, I don't care if you bishop, deacon, captain, officer, soldier, member, everybody should be putting their hand to the plow, man, getting ready for this thing, right? Everybody's supposed to be doing their job. And when you sit back and you don't want to do the job, you just want to run your mouth the whole time. You just want to come to the party the whole time and not put the work in. Guess what? You gonna get whatever you looking for. That's the same thing Paul was going into too. We're gonna go back there too, right? Go back to Galatians chapter 5. So verse 20. And again he said, whereunto shall I liken the kingdom of heaven of God? Verse 21. He said, it is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, and till the whole was leavened. You see how say the woman said it was like leaven, right? And the woman put 3 measures of meal in the mix, and guess what happened? The whole lump was leavened. Not just the part that the leaven was touching, no, the whole lump with the meal and everything mixed together, and the whole lump was leavened in one basket. So that means, guess what? Going into, like you say, the feast of unleavened bread, guess what? This is the type of deal. Guess what? You think this is a little bit. Well, it's just better get the little bit out of your heart, because if you don't get that little bit out of your heart, then that little bit gonna manifest, and it's gonna take over the whole body, right? It's gonna take over the whole body, and that's something that we don't want to do. It's in our homes, in our congregation, in ourselves. Guess what? On our day-to-day, we don't want that for ourselves, right? Let's go back to Galatians chapter 5, man. I'm gonna read verse 9. I'm gonna read down. We're gonna read down to verse 12, probably. The book of Galatians chapter 5 and verse 9. A little leaven leaveth the whole lump. Goes into the same thing that we were reading in Luke chapter 13, verse 21, right? And I have confidence in you through the Lord, that ye will be none otherwise minded, but he that troubles you shall bear his his judgment, and whosoever he be. So whosoever is troubling the people in Israel at this time when we having the feast on unleavened bread, or at this time in your walk, guess what? He that troubled you, guess what? These people, the Lord, this is what I'm gonna show you. The Lord said they're gonna be bearing their own judgment. This goes into this right here. I'm gonna hold you precept, Matthew chapter 7. I know it's a common precept, but brothers and sisters should know this. All right? Book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 1. Judge not, lest ye be judged. For with what judgment ye shall judge, and with what measure ye shall meet, it shall be measured to you again. This goes into the same thing. Luke 13 and 21 goes into the same thing. Galatians chapter 5 going into, right? And why beholdest the mote? So like, why thou the let me pull the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thy own eye. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam that's in thy own eye, then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy brother's eye, right? Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye pearls before the swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and render you. So this is why we don't give the pearls to the swine. This is why we don't judge, not least you be judged, because guess what, man? Sometimes you be feeding them pearls to the swine, right? Watch this. We're going to go back to Galatians chapter 5. We're going to tie into it. The book of Galatians chapter 5 in verse 10. And I have confidence in you through the Lord, that ye will be none otherwise minded, but he that troubled you, you shall bear his judgment, and whosoever he be, right? And I, brethren, if ye yet preach circumcision, why do ye suffer persecution? Then is the offense of the cross cease, right? So if we teaching about the children of the circumcision, we teaching about putting the family back together again. We teaching about, guess what, we Israel, and then guess what, we got the same hate in our heart. Then why we, if we got hate in our heart for our own people, then why are we keeping the commandments, right? Why are we keeping Passover? Why are we keeping the laws, right? What you doing is making the cross see. You taking away grace, right? Watch this, verse 12. I would they were even cut off which trouble you. So this Paul said, you know what? The people that's troubling us, that's hindering us in his walk, that's leavening us, guess what? That's why when you see people leave out of congregation, you see people cut off from congregation, you see the Lord put spirits in people that enter into people, and he separate people. Why? Because people have leaven in their heart. Sometimes, people can lie to us. They can lie to you. They can lie to me. They can lie to anybody. But you can't lie to the Most High God. He tried the reins. That means he trying the heart. He knows what's good for this, and he knows what's not good for this. So you'll see people come and go. That's why when you say people, you see this truth is a revolving door. It's literally a revolving door, right? It's just something that I just kind of want to touch on, man. I know this piece of unleavened bread. I know brothers and sisters, man, y'all get this leaven out your house. Man, guess what, man? Get the leaven out your heart. You brothers, man, like you say, sisters, y'all stay grounded, man. Tonight tomorrow night we're gonna be celebrating, man, at school. We already got the lamb going. It's hey, got it on the grill, man, making it do what it do. Shoot. All praise to the Most High for you brothers and sisters tuning in. Like and share the video. Help us put this truth around the four corners of the earth. We say follow God's law, statutes, and commandments. The law I'm bringing out for tonight is Exodus chapter 12. And shalom. Exodus chapter 12, on the first day, verse 18. The book of Exodus chapter 12, verse 18. In the first month, in the 14th day of the month at eve, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at eve, right? I'm going to jump up and get some more context in it, because I think I need a little bit more out of that. No, I'll read down. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. For whosoever eat that which is leaven, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel. Whether he be stranger or born in the land, ye shall not eat nothing leavened in all the habitations. Ye shall eat unleavened bread. So this is the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of Passover. Like you say, brothers and sisters, man, hey, stay grounded, stay guarded, keep your eyes open, man. Guess what, man? Let the Lord lead you and guide you this time, man. Really tap into your spiritual side with the Lord, man, because this is the most spiritual thing, man, that the Lord did for Israel. This is the miracle that he did for the whole house of Israel, man. Passing those death angels over us, man, to try to get us into a safe place so he can try us, so he can pick the ones that he needs to take to the kingdom, man. And with that, we're going to say shalom.